a painter or a multi-talented person. She does a lot of different things. Kelsi Boyd, so stay tuned, it'll be interesting. Welcome back to Exposition, and standing in for her mother Valerie is Kelsey Kerr.
I am here today. I'm usually doing the sound, but I have to do co-hosting duties, and it might get a little confusing because I'm Kelsey and our guest is Kelsey. So
yeah, there you go.
That'll be interesting.
This is not our guest, this is kind of a semi-guest.
Yeah.
Anything going on that we should know about the
we have a
artisan
lot
shop?
going on all the time. We have
What show you got
monthly
in there now?
Patrick.
Okay.
Yes, I believe his name is pronounced Petcharat Chenongsuwang.
Okay.
I hope I'm saying that right, but
It's pretty close
he
as far as I remember.
Yeah, he lets us call him Patrick, but he's an amazing local artist, and he's
We've
from
had him
Thailand.
on the show.
Yes, yes. So definitely check out his video if you want to see more about him. But his current show is amazing. He has a really good mix of old paintings and newly inspired ones, and also some traditional art from his friends. So definitely check it out. It'll be up for another month, and you know, all of our shows rotate to Zach and Scotty's to give them a second chance for people to see them and purchase them if they like them.
So far, mine's still up at Zach and Scotty's.
It is. We do need to switch. Joy Duffy's there, but you know, when you only have a couple people working, it's hard to coordinate those schedules. Had a lot of time to shine at Zach and Scotty's. But yeah, we have our monthly gallery shows, and of course our amazing shop artisans. We have so many. I think we have a couple new ones in this past month, and tons of classes.
All the classes, go to the Facebook page for Gallia County Artisan Shop Market.
I know we have so many names. It's the Artisan Shop and Studio on Facebook.
Okay, that's it.
And on the event tab, that's all of our classes that we have. And on our website, it links to there in the ticket link, and that's where you can sign up online or in person. So we have a lot of cool stuff going on. But
everything from stained glass, painting, and blacksmithing, and whatever in between.
Yes.
All right. Well, today we have Kelsi Boyd.
Hello.
Yes.
Painter. amongst other things, we've been talking for an hour and a half or so about all the different things she does.
She's multi-talented and excels at all of her talents.
Thank you. Thank you. I feel the pressure now.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey in becoming an artist.
I wish it were easier to just kind of tell it straightforward, because the path has not been a very linear one. I started out at Marshall University in Fine Arts and dropped out, and then ended on a career path in sociology and psychology and a master's in sociology, and ended up being a research analyst, and lost all sense of any type of creative drive. So I stopped painting for a very long time. Drew a lot as a kid, and it wasn't until I met another local artist here in town named Jamie Sloan that I got back to painting. So it's been, I think, maybe a couple of years now where I've been painting what I would consider to be full-time, at least weekly, sometimes even daily if I get the chance. Yeah, it's just been, I don't have, like any type of classical training. Of course, I dropped out of art school before I took any type of real painting classes. So everything that I do is very experimental, and I'm just now getting to the point where I've developed my own style. So I've been just kind of exploring art in a very personal way. And now I'm finally to the point to where I get to share it with the public and hanging in galleries here or there. And then also, of course, social media has, been a nice little outlet for me as well.
So what would you say your style is? I mean, we'll see it later. But
I'm very expressionistic, and I also dabble a little bit in post-impressionism, but it's mainly very expressionistic. And today it's also, there's a little bit of pop art here and there that you'll see, not too much of it, but there's a little bit of a pop art influence in some of the new Synergy pieces.
Who's some of your favorite artists?
Oh, it's so hard. David Hockney is one of my absolute favorites. He's someone that I always lean towards for inspiration when it comes to my landscapes. I absolutely love his work. I enjoy artists who brushstrokes. When I see brushstrokes, I absolutely love that. I love pieces too that aren't necessarily finished. One of my favorite portrait artists is Alice Neal. So like my inspiration is kind of all over the place. Cézanne is another one, and you'll see my card player's piece is very much inspired by him as well.
Okay. Do we want to bring up something? Okay.
This is Ralph. This is actually, if anyone is familiar with the historical Low Hotel in Point Pleasant, Ruth Finley is the owner, and Ralph is her brother who tends bar in the evenings at the Red Parrot there. And I never pose any of my sitters. I just catch them naturally, and I love that about them. So whatever clothing they have on, whatever position they're in is very natural for them.
Do you take a picture of them? It's like,
yeah,
bam, and then take it and
yes,
paint?
typically,
You don't have them
typically
come
I
to
work
a studio
right.
and sit.
Typically, I just work off of a photograph, and I like that because then it is a little bit more natural. Where if you have them sitting for hours at a time, then you lose a little bit of that spontaneity.
I love that style where it was like there's so much detail in some parts, and then it
I love
trailed off.
unfinished pieces, and I love that you can kind of track the artist's process through a lot of the sketch work that's there.
Yeah.
This is Brian. This is an old family friend of ours, and I love, he has this face that reminds me of a New England fisherman, which I absolutely love. And this was
I was thinking Hemingway when I seen it.
yeah, and this is another one where, just all of the people that I paint are very, no one has ever hesitated, especially my family members, which I love because they aren't necessarily people who are into the arts. And every time I ask to take their picture, to take a portrait for a painting, they're very inclined to it. And this was just him like, oh yes, okay, here you go. That was the face that I got. And that one hangs, Jack Bourlet has that in his collection, and he actually owns the Jamie Sloan's portrait that he did of me in his last series. So that was kind of a cool back and forth there. This is probably one of my favorite paintings that I've ever done. This is my cousin Marty. And again, this was his, this one is a little bit more, if you look at some of Alice Neal's work, her portraits are very expressionist. There's a little bit of distortion there, but this one cracks me up because he grabbed the hat last minute. He wanted to wear this hat, and the beer, he already had it in hand. And that was
is that
just
one of those
his
hats with the ears that come down? Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if it was a hoodie.
Yep, no, it's a hat that has like the fur.
Okay, so he's trying to be Canadian like.
Yeah. And he was adamant that he wanted to wear that hat too, so.
What are you going to do? So, was the eye natural, or is that?
No,
what?
that is, he has a lazy eye like
Okay.
that. That is, that's not
You
something.
didn't do that on purpose.
Yeah, exactly. That is his eye.
I love that there's, this outline that really brings him forward and gives it its own style.
Well, it's a very, so I paint a lot of family members, and I'm from rural West Virginia, and so a lot of people in my family are they're working class people. And it's not necessarily something that you would see in modern painting. So I like to bring in little modern elements like that to give it a bit of a different.
It used to be the only people would get painted as aristocrats because they could afford somebody.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. This is actually my fiance, Nick, just sleeping. And I can't remember, this is done
Does he like it?
Yeah, he does. He could be creeped out by it, I don't know, maybe. But this is when I dabbled a little bit with like some of Van Gogh's style because I'm not trained as a painter. So I spent a lot of time just playing with different artist techniques, trying to figure out my own style. So this is one where I played a lot with some of Van Gogh's style.
Yeah, sometimes it's kind of hard not to work the paint too much, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, well, let's touch a little bit more, and then you just start muddying things
Yeah,
up.
sometimes you just have to leave it
use
alone.
oil? Okay.
Yeah.
Do you ever mix it, or is it strictly oil?
I mix all of my oils with linseed oil,
Okay.
and sometimes I actually recently left my linseed oil at the gallery, and I was home painting, and I wanted to paint, and the only oil we had in the house was this Crisco oil. So I used it, and
Really?
it was brilliant. It worked perfectly, but it took like 2 weeks to dry. So I like that. I like the chemistry behind paint as well, and I don't think a lot of people realize all of the different elements that you can use to blend your paints and mix your paints. And that's one thing that you would learn in art school, and I didn't have that, so I play
Hadn't
around
thought
a lot.
about cooking stuff.
Oh
And
yeah,
it makes
olive
for a
oil,
good
whatever.
story
Yes.
to be like, this piece is extra special with Crisco.
Absolutely, yeah.
It looks good and it tastes good.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Gives a little bit of a shine.
Okay, so you got started on a series of landscapes.
Landscapes is something that I really love to paint, so I go back and forth between portraits and landscapes, and you'll notice that some of my newer pieces from the Modern Folk series combines both people and landscapes. So I found the best of both worlds in that series, and this is just one where I'm a little bit obsessed with lime green right now, so I've been using a lot of lime green, and I think green is one of the hardest colors for artists to work with. It's just kind of harsh to the eye. It's not very, pleasing. So this was one where I wanted to see what I could do with a landscape using a lot of different bold
Do a lot of
neon
people say that?
colors.
Because my favorite color is probably green.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to painting like grass and hills and trees, it can be a very boring, almost monotonous process because it's just shades and shades of green.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't always look pretty.
Yeah.
This is another painting where I'm just playing around with different styles, very impressionistic, just hills in West Virginia.
Yeah, I was going to ask if that was here or it was a travel photo or what.
Here, yeah. So I no longer do any paintings that are outside of West Virginia. I will do some of Ohio landscapes, obviously, because I'm right here on the river. But most of all of the landscapes that you see in my work are all West Virginia.
Okay.
I know on social media I've seen you do your Thrifty 50s.
My Thrifty
Are any
50s.
of those part of that?
I think I do have some Thrifty 50s here, and that started because art, it can be such an intimidating thing for people in our area. And whenever I started working with Gallery 409 and then involved with other artists in the local area, a lot of times there's this complaint that local people aren't interested in art. And it's not true. It's just that it can be intimidating because it's so expensive and people don't know the process. Even when we have gallery shows, I have a lot of people message me and ask, how do we go about even buying a piece of art from a gallery? And then oftentimes prices are very vague or they're discreet, so you don't know what you're getting yourself into. So a way to practice around, I have paintings that just lie around, and I'm a very quick painter. And typically I'll do, a painting in 1 hour sessions. So I started, I had all of these canvases that were given to me as a gift, just 16 by 20 bulk canvases. And so I started doing really quick local landscape scenes and then selling them for $50 online. And now, it's become this very fun, it's like a game for people now. Like how quickly can they get to one of the paintings, because it's very spontaneous. And people love it because it's local. It's all very local art, and they're familiar with the landscape scenes, and they can afford it. And a lot of times too, people don't realize that $50 is still a lot of money for a lot of people.
Right,
so
sure.
even if, to a lot of collectors, $50 isn't anything, but to people who are interested in local art and wanting to get more involved in it, they're still sacrificing a lot just to get to those paintings. But I've noticed that it's
Because it's a luxury. It's not like
it is
something you
a
gotta have to
luxury,
eat or
yeah.
clothe yourself.
And these are the paintings that I love doing most because they're going to people who I think appreciate them more than people who have actually bought my works in galleries. So if I could just sit at home all day and make thrifty 50s, I would be totally fine with it.
It's such a great idea, and it's so mutually beneficial because they get this accessible piece of art that's genuine, that a local person created of a local scene, and then you get supported.
Yes,
and
I
get some
do,
money,
yeah.
So that's good.
And there's the connection too. So one thing that is great about technology and social media is that I can sell my art directly. So I now have a relationship with the people who are buying the art, and I'm very attached to the art, and I am very controlling about my art too. So I want to know who the art is going to, and I would rather give my art away to someone who will appreciate it rather than someone who's just going to buy it and maybe end up leaving it in a garage somewhere.
Yeah.
So I build a lot of connections that way, and I have a lot of friends that are like, I don't care how much money your art might be worth one day, we'll always keep these. And I'm like, but if you can sell them later down the road, please do so. I will not be offended.
And you're possibly opening up that world of arts to somebody that might be like, I know you and I love this.
Yeah.
And then that'll open up their world to be like, I'm going to go to more gallery shows and I'm going to start my collection.
Exactly. It's interesting because there's so many more households now with my paintings in them, and it's not because I've become any more of like a successful artist. It's just because I don't know, just made it more accessible to people, and it makes them feel really good and special, and I like that's what art should be to me, is that connection with other people. So this is called Ice Cream on Rayburn, which is this is the backyard of my fiance's aunt's house. It's such a beautiful field, and that day we were having homemade ice cream, all these different flavors, strawberry, banana, and I love playing with color. I like the idea of, I don't know if you guys ever noticed, but sometimes I'll see tree bark or something that has like a little bit of green on it, and then I just exaggerate it, or a leaf with a little bit of pink, and then so I just completely distort it and play around with the colors. So I like the idea of taking the experience that day of having this homemade ice cream and making this landscape where we're at look a little bit like what you would see in ice cream flavors. This is a Thrifty 50. This is one that you would find for $50 on my Facebook feed, and this is TNT. This is local. Nick and I live right outside of the TNT area, so I do a lot of TNT scenes. And this was done in the fall, so everything was pretty bare. And again, this, the landscape is a little bit exaggerated, a lot with the colors. And I like that. It's a local scene, but it doesn't have to be. You can still make it whatever you want, and this is very much David Hockney inspired.
Yeah, you can still see like your style coming through all the different subjects.
So if you're not familiar with this area, Point Pleasant, the TNT area was a place where they produced explosives for World War II.
Yeah.
And right now it's kind of abandoned, and that was looked like Mothman's driveway.
Yeah, yep. It's just an old trail out in TNT, and it's always vacant out there. So I love painting scenes of TNT because it's always just very empty, and it's very quiet and peaceful, and it's very beautiful. But there's a lot of times people are like, "Why do you go out there?" But like, aren't you scared? And I'm like, no, like nothing weird or bad has ever happened out there.
Yeah, they say Mothman, that's where he lives.
Yeah.
Or used to.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of fans connect with that subject
I
too.
think so, yeah.
You get the next one? Here we go.
This is close to TNT as well. This is on Camp Conley Road, right off of the main road. And this is a sycamore with another sycamore that had fallen laying next to it. This was done in the fall as well. Again, just playing with the different colors that you see, a lot of purples, especially in the fall, that I love. Very quick. This was probably done in an hour and a half, 2 hours. And it's all of my Thrifty 50s are acrylic.
Okay.
Everything else is done with an acrylic base and oil over top, but all of my Thrifty 50s are done with acrylic.
Okay.
Another Thrifty 50. This is Spruce Knob, West Virginia. You won't see many landscapes like these. I'm not a fan of mountains, of painting mountains or hills. I very much like to paint trees, especially if I'm like engulfed in a wooded area. Those are my favorite scenes to paint.
Yeah.
So this is kind of rare for my work. This is a new series, totally different. You can tell I definitely play around with different things. This is more pop art. This
Now,
is a synergy
these look
series.
like wallpaper.
Yes, which is very intentional. So
It is wallpaper, or you just
it's
made a
not, But
wallpaper?
I want it to look like they're all of these are 3 foot by 3 foot. So
Okay.
they're squares. They're all the same size with different patterns. And I'm just playing around. It's called Synergy, and I love the idea. This is just totally endless. You can take however many objects you want and just throw them on a piece of canvas, and you can do this with just about anything. So you can make, a million more paintings, but they would all still be related in this series. This one is called Have a Nice Day. This one too, this is an acrylic base, and then all of the cherries and sunflowers are painted with oil and linseed over top.
I guess the only thing you'd have to do is either make a longer piece of it, or make it so that one actually overlaps with the other to make an actual.
You can actually make a pattern with this. If you want to Photoshop it, there's actually a method where you can take a pattern like this and then turn it into
You make actual
and you can
wallpaper
make-
out of
yeah,
it.
and then you can turn it into a wallpaper, which is something that I would be very interested in doing one day, is designing wallpaper, because I love interior design. This one's recent. This one is called a breakfast bouquet. It's just oranges and magnolias. There's a lot of magnolia trees in West Virginia, and it's probably one of my favorites because of the really large waxy leaves. And this one is just simply lemons and rhododendrons, and this is the first one that kicked off the series, and this was inspired by Dorothy Draper. If anyone is, Dorothy Draper was a designer, and she is very much, she did a lot of the work at the Greenbrier in Lewisburg, West Virginia.
And that was in a show inspired by
Yeah,
her.
the whole show isn't. So Jim Hobbs is the one who curated the show, and he wanted all of the local artists to make pieces that were inspired by Dorothy Draper. And so that was my piece, and it led, one thing. It's like everyone is like, I love this, and I'm like, well, I could just, do so. Like, give me any type of fruit or plant, I'll throw it together and make something interesting. So I like that there's not too much intention that goes into those. It's just random objects that you put together. And I like that there's not really a big story behind it. It's just all about design and aesthetic.
You put those in frames, or?
The lemons and rhododendron are in frames, but they're actually on gallery wrap canvas. So it's a thick canvas with painted sides. So the others aren't framed.
And do you do some of those in your houses too?
Yes. So every house that we design and flip, I do one hand-painted wallpaper in the house. And
You mean you do a whole room?
I do one wall, just one
wall.
accent wall
Okay.
is hand-painted wallpaper, and hopefully they'll stay there forever. And
So is
years
it
down the
wallpaper
road-
that you paint, or do you paint
No,
the walls?
I paint the actual
Wall.
wall
Okay.
to look
Okay.
like wallpaper.
Okay.
It's very cool.
That's a lot of work, not just flipping houses, but then let's paint a whole wall.
It is, but it's a nice little unique element, and I hope,
Is there a
I'm
room
sure
that you
people
usually
might paint over
do,
it.
or just depends on what
I
inspires
usually
you?
do. I usually don't do rooms that are in the open. I usually, like the last one was in a laundry room, so that's not too
Oh.
obvious. And then some are in closets. So I like when there's just like this little surprise, this
Yeah.
little like where did this come
That
from?
makes it better and like unpredictable.
Yes,
Like
yeah.
here's another present.
Exactly. And I hope one day people are like, who did this? Where did this come from? Which they might be painted over at that time, but you never know.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next two are a new series that you're doing?
Yeah, so this is another, this is the new series, and this is the style that I consider to be my own, that I've, developed after playing around with a lot of different techniques. This is family portraits, basically.
Was any of these people in one of the earlier portraits?
Yes. Well, you'll see it in the next portrait.
Okay, I wasn't
Some
sure
of
if the
these-
guy in the hat there was the
Yes,
same.
some of these people will overlap, but you won't, there's not a lot of detail. It's still very loose. It's still quite expressionistic. And this one, if you guys are familiar with Cezanne and his card player series, my family are card players. They love to play cards, and poker is something that is very, very important to the people in my family. So every weekend my family gets together, and poker is typically, the main scene that takes place. And so this was a picture. I snapped this. This was actually during my little brother's going away party before he left for the military. And it is on the Ohio River.
Was it outside?
It was outside, yes.
Okay.
But it's actually, if you look, it's under like a structure roof. It's dirt floors with just.
Oh, okay.
And you can see that some of the posts are actually just trees that they had cut down and used as posts. And then right behind it is an island that sits in the middle of the Ohio River called Leetart Island. So I titled this painting Leetart Island Card Players. And the hot pink is all acrylic. I do an acrylic wash to all of my paintings, and what I love about these pieces is that that neon color that you see that's so vibrant now does not look nearly that vibrant before the other oil colors are applied on top of it. So it's a little bit of an illusion. And I love playing with color that way.
And the last one, I think.
Yeah, this one is called Ring of Fire. It's, again, another series from another painting in the series called Modern Folk. And this was a scene from my cousin Wayne's funeral, and it's at a family cemetery called Mount Flower in Leon, West Virginia. And people just gathered naturally like this in a large ring around the entire cemetery. And of course, they're circling the rest of the graves because these are all family members that have been buried there, so they don't exclude the other tombstones in the ceremony. And it's a very casual, informal event when someone in our family dies, and it's more of a party, more of a celebration, and it's much different than I've experienced in anyone else's family. So I really wanted to capture this as a painting rather than ethnography is something that I was very interested in with a background in sociology. And rather than writing stories about it, I figured I would just do my storytelling through painting.
Yeah. Okay, so we got a minute left. Where can people find you if they're interested in looking at your work or purchasing something? And
Well, the gallery at 409 is typically where all of my work is held, and that is in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, and it's connected to the Lowe Hotel. Or you can find me on Facebook under Kelsi Boyd, or on Instagram under Kelsi Boyd. I typically keep everything very informal. I don't like to pay for anything outside of art other than just making art, and once I'm done with it, I'm done. So people have to work kind of hard to figure out where I am, and that's why the Thrifty 50s are something that I keep very, it's a small group of people, friends and family, so it's kind of hard to reach, but if you get there, then if you can find me, then hopefully you've lucked out.
okay. Well, thanks for coming on. It's been very interesting,
Yes,
and I'm
thank
sure
you
we'll
so
have
much.
Thank you.
another show with you.
We'll have to have a couple more with our different businesses.
Right. Well, thank you for sticking around and watching, and see us next month on Exposition.